Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Professor, I do want to come to you, and I want to return to the conversation about calling the Supreme Court justices evil. You host a podcast, correct?
Yes, Senator.
And that is called Strict Scrutiny, correct?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. You made those comments on your podcast. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit the recording of that podcast for the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In that podcast, you referenced, as Senator Kennedy said, to Justice Kagan, an opinion, and you referred to the conservative justices as, and I'm quoting you, her evil colleagues. That is something you said on Strict Scrutiny in your podcast. And you, in that same podcast, you made a reference to Justice Alito. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that. We certainly do reference Justice Alito, so I believe that, but I don't recall specifically what.
There was that he was an abject misogynist. So since this is your podcast that you hosted, and this was your opinion on that podcast, would you like to provide explanation about why you think conservative justices are evil and why you would think Justice Alito was a misogynist? Do you care to explain yourself?
I would have to look at the transcript, Senator. I think that the dismissive approach to sex equality arguments in the Dobbs case was deeply concerning. One paragraph in the opinion suggests that there's no sex equality problem with abortion restrictions or prohibitions. I think that's deeply wrong. And in the more colloquial sort of mode of a podcast conversation, that is probably what I intended to convey, that he discounted very serious sex equality concerns.
You were angry and you let your emotions get the best of you, is basically what you're saying.
I don't think I'm saying that, Senator. I was having a conversation, and I am sure I was criticizing Justice Alito. We frequently do on my podcast.
Okay. Would you call that lack of respect?
As podcast in the context of a podcast, we frequently, I will stipulate that we frequently demonstrate a lack of respect for writings of the Supreme Court justices.
That is good to hear that from you, that you have that admission of guilt. So thank you for that. I've got a question for the entire panel. There was discussion about Section 1507 and protesting outside of judges' residences, justices' residence, and I've got a bill, the Protecting Our Supreme Court Justices Act, and it would deter intimidation of Supreme Court justices. And in the exchange Senator Cruz had earlier, he referenced that purposeful intimidation. This would change, it would increase the maximum term of imprisonment for violation of Section 1507 from 1 year to 5 years, and increasing the maximum time, jail time for a protester under 1507 is, I think, an effective way to deter this intimidation of our justices. So I'd like to hear from each of you on this. Professor Blackman, I'm going to come to you first, and then just a very quick, short answer from each of you.
Sure. I think it's a good idea, and I think it should be enforced vigorously as well. We mentioned Judge Kaczmarek before. He said several death threats against him. They resulted in plea bargains. So I think there's a serious problem that needs to be addressed with enforcement.
Okay. Professor Shaw?
You know, I think that any law that also touches protected First Amendment conduct would need to be scrutinized carefully, so I would need to take a look. I'm not prepared to take a position here.
Outside of a...
No, this is about protest outside of... Protests or
intimidation.
Okay, so violence, absolutely. I mean, if we're talking about increasing penalties for violence, I would absolutely support that, yes.
Okay, great. Professor?
I certainly think we need to carefully scrutinize the level of violence and the threats against Supreme Court justices and other judges, as we saw when there was a threat against Justice Kavanaugh's life, right? An attempted threat against him and his family. So it underscores the seriousness of the issue, and I think it's important for Congress to take a look at this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.